Hi everyone, if you're a subscriber or especially if you're a Patreon, you'll know by now that I'm actually undergoing a whole lot of renovations within the studio. This is a video on how I dealt with acoustic insulation. So the Arrow Zoom guys contacted me a while ago, and they actually sent me a whole bunch of acoustic tiles. Now the reason for that is I wanted to be able to replace all my old, well, they're not really acoustic tiles. In fact, they're actually just plain old foam. The problem with those tiles is that they're actually not fireproof, and also they go yellow after a while and they look pretty ugly. So I need to replace those completely. And if you're a Patreon, you'll have seen the Patreon only videos which show the build out of the new studio, where I added a whole lot of extra insulation in there which dampens a lot of the sound. So why do you need acoustic insulation? Let's go into the other room. I'll show you what it sounds like. So this is a new studio, but I don't have any acoustic treatment in it at the moment. So you can hear it sounds quite echoey. A good example of a dead room is a walk-in wardrobe. In fact, I used to record in here quite often because all the clothes tend to absorb all the sound and stops it from bouncing off the walls. But I'll be putting in a whole lot of acoustic insulation here. But for now, because I don't have so many acoustic tiles, I'll be putting in the Arrow Zoom tiles into the old studio, where I still actually do some recording. So first of all, I need to test out the acoustic quality of the current room with the tiles. Then I'll remove the tiles, test it again, then add the new tiles, and then test it again just to see what the comparison is between before and after. So I've got a bunch of iPhone amps which I'm going to use to test out the acoustics of the room. So I'm pretty sure I have enough samples, I think. You can see just what colour they used to be, white, and now they've just gone all yellowy. It's pretty disgusting. So from all the data I've collected so far, it looks like those foam panels did actually make a big difference. But I'd like to replace it with something that is actually fire retardant. So the Arrow Zoom tiles come in this fairly tight package. At first they really look unusable, but their instructions say to leave it out for 24 hours, and they do actually eventually come back into shape. One of the things you have to remember when you buy the Arrow Zoom tiles is that red isn't actually red. It sort of ends up more of a pinky colour, but having said that, it's still quite usable. So I made this acoustic sound panel. It's simply made of a bunch of towels. I think it's about 5 towels in there. And it means I can actually move it around and adjust it should I have any sort of echoes in the room. It's quite handy. When you're installing the Arrow Zoom panels, they give you some double-sided tape that you can use to attach to walls, but unfortunately I ran out of that double-sided tape that they gave me, so I had to use some other stuff. Now unfortunately I didn't really have enough tiles to be able to do the whole wall. Ideally what I should be doing is going all the way down to the bottom, and also up along here as well, and along this wall, and also finishing off this bit here as well, and all the way up there as well. So I don't really have enough tiles to finish it off. But let's see what the acoustics are like with this setup. So it's quite interesting looking back through all the data that I captured, and I'm glad that I used several apps because one of the apps was just misbehaving. So the Impulse Pro app showed an average RT or reverberation time of 0.09, which is a pretty dead room. There's some areas that really need bass traps in the room, RevMeter Pro showed an average RT of 218 milliseconds, while the Vescom app had around 538 milliseconds. Don't know why that was so inaccurate, but that's just one of those things. Looking at no tiles at all, Impulse Pro jumped to 0.36, RevMeter Pro to 380 milliseconds, and the Vescom app, well, yeah, doesn't seem to know what it's doing really. And if you look at the new tiles results, Impulse Pro went from an average of 0.09 to 0.19, RevMeter Pro showed up 270 milliseconds, and let's just forget Vescom. So even though the end result isn't as good as before, the new tiles aren't actually covering as much wall space. So I expect with more tiles, it will only get a whole lot better. And not only that, it contains a fire retardant, so it won't catch fire when I blow up my next SBC.
Oh yeah, you've gotta be kidding me.
So that's probably all I'll do in this part of the studio. I've still got to do a whole lot more in the other part of the studio. So one other thing I want to do is put up some of these acoustic hammocks, is what I call them, into the other studio, because these are actually really effective. It's an idea I had based on the fact that the walk-in wardrobe usually is a lot quieter than any part of the house. So I bought some really cheap towels. They ended up being about $1 each, and then attached that to several strips of timber, some old offcuts, and then attached that whole frame to the roof. That's actually really effective. It captures a lot of the sound and it deadens the room a lot. So these Arrow Zoom tiles are pretty good. They work as advertised, and even though this is a sponsor video, I'll definitely be getting some more of them. You can check out their website. They've got a whole different range of tiles, bass traps and standard acoustic tiles, so check that out. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you next week. There's an even better way of testing acoustic quality in a room.
Wi-Fi! 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 Wi-Fi!